Hi, my name is Philip Johnson, and I want to take you on a whirlwind tour of Hackystat. One of the first things I want to tell you is that Hackystat is not a conventional monolithic system. It's actually a collection of small little services that work together to provide you with information about your software engineering activities. Here are some of them. In fact, not all of the services that we use in Hackystat are actually part of the Hackystat project itself. For example, we use the Google Chart service to provide trend charts, and we use the Twitter service to provide certain communication facilities. The boxes in white are actually services part of the core Hackystat project. So let me show you some of the communication pathways. One of the first is the ability to send data to the sensor base, which is the central repository for raw sensor data. And the idea here is that you attach little software plugins to your development tools, and they automatically send data about what you're doing and the work products to the sensor base. That information can be displayed to you by bringing up a service called the project browser, which is a simple web application. Now, raw sensor data generally isn't that useful, and so or interpretable, and so you need a higher level analysis. One of those is called the daily project data analysis, which takes raw sensor data from the sensor base and then abstracts it so you can understand information about a given project on a given day. That's more useful, but oftentimes you need to understand what the trends in your process and project data are over time. For that, we use a service called telemetry, which takes together collections of daily project data instances and combines them or sends off a request to Google Charts to display it in a graphical format. So the project browser is one, but not the only kind of high-level user interface to the services in the system. Another is called ticker tape. What ticker tape can do is collect together information from a variety of lower-level services and then emit tweets every once in a while to the Twitter service to provide those who are following a given Twitter account with information about what people are doing on their project. So the next thing I'd like to do is kind of show you how these things, these services look in reality. Here's a screenshot of a computer called Dasha, which is running several of the services right now. In fact, Dasha is the host for the public installation of the Hackystat services. While you can download the services and run them behind your firewall yourself, if you prefer, you can use the publicly available services that we host at the University of Hawaii. Okay, let's now try to log into the system. So what I'll do is go to the project browser, which you can see here for the public Hackystat service, and I'm going to type in an email address and click register, and that's going to result in an email being sent off to that particular email address with the data. And you can see it here. I actually have done it before, so there's going to be multiple instances of this mail, but that will provide you with information about where you're registered, what your password is, and so forth. Once you've registered with the system, you can then log in. So I'm going to try logging in to my account here, and that'll take you to a page called Sensor Data Display, which can provide you with information about your raw sensor data. So let's take a look and see what I've sent for the month of March 2009. You can see that I've sent data of various kinds of types: bufftrans, build, code issue, dev event, and unit test. And indeed, for one type of data, dev event data, I've actually sent that type of data from two different tools. So you can see here's some dev event sensor data that I sent from the Eclipse tool, which is Java data. If I close the screen and then click here, you'll see the data that I sent from the Emacs tool. Okay, again, raw sensor data is kind of hard to interpret, so one of the things I want to do is now log in as a different user, which will make it simple for me to show you somewhat more complicated analyses. For this, we'll go to the daily project data page, and I'm going to select a few different projects, and I'm going to take a day in early December, and I'm going to look at the coverage for that particular day. So what we've done now is instead of looking at raw sensor data, we're looking at kind of conclusions that you can make from that raw sensor data. What this shows you is for these 3 projects, how many classes fell into each of 5 categories of levels of coverage. So you can see that this particular project had 19 classes that had relatively high levels of coverage. We can click and see the actual names here. Whereas this project had 4 classes with relatively low levels of coverage. Okay, again, that's more helpful, but still yet you might be asking yourself, well, how do I actually use this, and when do I know when the data is actually important and I need to react to it? So what we've done to help with those kinds of questions is build a higher level analysis called Software Project Portfolio, and we actually tend to talk about this as the Software Intensive Care Unit, because what we're doing here is trying to give you a sense for whether your project is healthy or not. Just like in an intensive care unit, you're providing information about whether a particular patient is healthy or not. So we're going to select a few projects and look at the first month of December and see how these projects look. Okay, so we're retrieving a whole bunch of different telemetry streams as well as some daily project data instances, and they get graphed as followed. So you can see for our 3 projects, you can see some green, some yellow, and some red. Green means it's healthy, yellow means it's a little unstable, and red means there's something going wrong. Okay? We graph both the trend over time as well as the most recent value. And so there's some interesting things here. For example, you can see for this project, the current value of coverage, 63, is not great. Okay, it's kind of in between, so we color it yellow. But the trend for that project in coverage is rising, so we color the trend green. On the other hand, if we go down here to this project, we can see that the current value, 97% for coverage, is really good, so we give that a green. But the trend is yellow. It's unstable over time, so we're not as confident that that trend, that current high level might not drop down in future. So there's some examples of how you can analyze data using the project browser. I told you about the Twitter client earlier. Here's an example of the tweets that can be sent. We're using this Twitter account called Hackystat. You could send the data to various places, and we can see information about what Philip and Pavel have been working on recently. In terms of upcoming events, one of the things we're very excited about is the idea of having a game-based environment where we collect data about real people working on real projects, but allow these people to compete against each other with respect to software development behavior. So for example, if you commit early and commit often, you get points for that. If you fail the build, you get points deducted for that. And so we can have groups of people building software and actually getting points based upon keeping the coverage high, keeping the number of code issues low, making sure they pass the daily build, and so on and so forth. So we're going to be building that over the first 6 months or so of 2009. Hopefully by the fall we'll have that together. Another fun upcoming project is called Trajectory. There what we're doing is looking for patterns in your software development data over time that we can compare to other projects and look for similarities. This is a way of kind of uncovering both positive and negative software development behaviors. Well, I hope that you've enjoyed this brief introduction. If you want to learn more about the Hackystat project, you can go to our homepage where we have lots of links to other information, and there's also news groups like the Hackystat Developers News Group where you can find out about what we're working on right now. So thanks, and I hope to see you soon.